we're just going to be cruising today, like 4 o'clock on a Sunday. We'll see how well the stabilization works in kind of this not exactly bright light situation. Didn't do so hot at night the other day, but it works pretty darn well with light outside. But it's 4 o'clock. Oh. The only thing I've had to eat today, though, is donuts. And snacking on those on and off all day long. So I'm probably not going to be hitting it hard because thankfully my stomach doesn't feel that great right now. We're just going to kind of cruise through some of this today. The parking lot was still pretty full, so there's going to be a lot of loose dogs and all kinds of fun stuff today. Some of which will be better behaved than others. Okay, here we are entering 0.6 loop. Just a fun little warm-up section. I don't know if you can hear it on the video. I'm getting a nice little, just starting to get a nice little creaking sound from the seat post. So I probably need to pull that sucker and clean it off. Whenever it starts creaking, that seems to pull the seat post and the collar, clean everything off. That usually seems to take care of it for a few weeks. I really like this section though. This is, I mean, obviously it's nothing technical as you can see, but this is just fun single track. It's nice because we bring kids out here. Now the problem is, as you saw from like that little section I had to ride through, there's a little bit of some stuff you got to be able to get through to make it over here. But yeah, if you can get kids and younger kids over here, this is a great loop. At some point, I'm going to bring my 4-year-old over here because I think he would love this. This loop is right in his wheelhouse, just enough to be challenging for him, but it's smooth enough without rocks, and that's so pretty unusual for Austin. And it's great for, you know, he's on a fully rigid 16-inch. Even little stuff that on a full-size bike doesn't seem like much is a big obstacle for him. The wheels don't want to roll over much. I really enjoy riding out here at Walnut Creek though. This is just a nice trail. It's probably, in terms of most of the stuff around Austin, probably about the least technical overall, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't have some fun technical sections. So and I just find it to be a nice, enjoyable place to come ride. Some of the stuff out around here is, I guess it's fun, but it can also beat you up. And this leaves you mentally and physically exhausted. This is a place where you can come ride and really, you can bring new riders out here. There's still plenty of stuff that's challenging, even to a more advanced rider.
Sorry.
It's good. Thanks.
Yeah, that's yours, then.
We come out of this loop and we're now heading kind of down towards the creek now. There's a little detour that we'll take here on the right. It's I would call it, I guess, an intermediate feature. Not sure if it actually has a name or not. It's a fun little kind of drop and then turn here at the bottom. It's a fun one to just hit, kind of try something, because there are a couple other fun little sections coming up. It's a nice little warm up. Thanks. Oh. Thanks. So you can hear my hubs buzzing. These are the i9 Hydras. This is actually the i9 Enduro 305 set. I greased them up originally, and they're honestly completely silent, or so close to it they practically are. But what I found is that when I greased them up, they honestly made about as much noise as the chain did. And I found that I was actually making too little noise coming up on people. To get their attention, I either have to say something or shift a few gears as I rolled up behind them. So I re-lubed them, and I still put some grease in. I just didn't quite use as much grease as I did the first time, and got them down to where they're pretty nice volume here, and just loud enough that you can freewheel and people hear you coming up behind them. I suppose I could run a bell or something as well, but honestly, that's not as much fun. Okay, now we're coming up through here to a root drop. It's a fun little technical, probably more advanced feature. Oh. Thanks. We'll have to keep an eye out, make sure there's nobody coming up it, because you never know what you run into here. Got to go through that gap back there on the left. My bars don't fit through the trees. Tested it. Here we go. And there. That was a little sketchier today than it was last weekend when I came through here, but it works. That drop itself has never really bothered me. It's the what do you do as you come through the creek. As you can see, kind of all those, there wasn't as much water in there today. I actually think it's easier when it's running a little higher because it clears a lot of that crud out there. Always run through those leaves and you're never 100% certain exactly what's under there. And if you're about to hit a rock at a weird angle or something, and realistically it's probably not any different than when the water's crystal clear and moving and you can see just fine, but mentally it's a little unnerving for me personally. I don't like not being able to see what my tires are getting ready to hit. So now we just got a little climb for a little while, so we'll just cruise. Then there's going to be a little loop. That little turnoff there doesn't actually go anywhere, as I recall. I'm sure it's there for a reason, just not sure what it is. So I was out here climbing stuff like this and trying to talk at the same time. It makes you say, man, I need to ride more. I'm out of shape. So this is the little loop that we turn off onto. You can completely bypass this if you want, but this is a nice little, call it intermediate loop. Slightly technical descent here coming up, and then what can be a tricky little climb. A couple little roots, and then not so much the climb itself, but sort of the momentum shifts on the climb are what tend to throw me off. And here's the descent. And it levels out, and then you got started this climb here. So a couple of roots, pop right over. Then this section with a few more roots, and then this little section. It's just one of these, not technically too difficult, but just give you problems. And then right back into this other little punchy climb. And then you're through everything on that little loop. Now I'm gonna cruise up here because got a nice long descent and then a climb, and then gonna go hit Indo Valley, which is a fun little technical section with a couple of different ways to leave or to exit out of it, I guess. You always have to keep an eye out when you're riding out here. Walnut Creek, it goes for a lot of the trails here in Austin, maybe most of them. They're two-way multi-use trails, so just, you know, keep your eyes peeled if you're riding out here. Could be another mountain biker coming down the hill, or it could be somebody with little kids, or I've run into, when I've been out here early in the mornings, there's like a mother's group. It's out here with their baby Bjorns and walking their dogs and all that. So it could go over to the left, which we might here in just a minute. But first we're gonna go hit this Indo Valley, which is a fun little section. Probably the most technical descending in Walnut Creek. And then you got like, yeah, I prefer to hit that to the left. I'm honestly not sure if the trail goes on the left side of those trees or the right, but that wasn't happening. Brakes weren't quite up to the task there. Carried a little bit too much speed, I think, to make that left, but try it again next time. So now there's a little climb here that I've never actually ridden before. We might give this a try, going back up to the left. But I might also catch my breath for a minute here first. Yeah, let's go for it. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not, okay. We're not messing with that right now. My stomach is, I can tell. So, I'm not going to do that climb today. Give myself a second to recover there. Yeah, this was one of those. As soon as I started going up, it was like, nah, this was requiring more effort than I thought at the start. And like I said, a day's worth of donuts and my stomach isn't feeling super awesome right now. But it is a good reason to get out and ride some. Need a little more gear there. I think what we'll do is come over here and do the waterfall crossing. Walnut Creek's basically a crisscross maze of trails. But this is one of my favorite approaches. There's really two ways from here. Well, actually several, but two main ways to get back over to the log loop. One is to keep going to the left, which takes you up by the dam, which we'll ride back later. Or you can take this little shortcut. Ooh, and that was too little gear there. I get my yeah, still working a little harder than I'd like to be. But need to be out here riding doing this. We're just going to cruise here for a minute. We're about to hit the top of the interlog loop, which is a very nice non-technical section of trail, pretty smooth. Bring my 4-year-old up here. He really enjoys it. And it's nice because you can access most of these trails if you know what you're trying to get to by riding the paved trail kind of through the middle of the park. So this is one where you can basically ride the paved trail around the opposite side of what we're doing right now and end up in effectively the same place we're going to go to jump onto this loop. So it worked really well. And I've actually brought my 4-year-old up this climb. This is kind of right on the limit of his climbing ability on his bike. Just his size and his strength these days. Just say 4. He actually just turned 5 yesterday, so I gotta train myself to start saying my 5-year-old now. 5-year-olds are not happy when you accidentally say they're 4 years old. Thanks. Sure. Like I said, multi-use two-way trail, so gotta keep your eyes open. Don't hit any blind turns so hard that you can't stop if you need to, because there could easily be a little toddler or something in the middle of the trail. This is a section of trail where it's really tempting to just hammer it because you're warmed up by the time you get over here. This is a fun section of trail to ride fast. Saw a few of those berm turns, a few flat turns. Like, I learned to ride this section well, which I'm not going to say that I do, but I will say that learning to ride this really fast, learning to ride it well, will force you to become a good cornerer, at least in terms of Austin trails. Learn how to corner on this flat hard pack. kind of understanding where the limits of traction are or aren't, and how it gets mixed up a little bit as you get into sections where you start getting a little bit of gravel over the top, which can always make things a little interesting going through turns. And I just like this kind of flowy trail. Like riding down something like Into Valley is fun too, but it's also fun sometimes just to cruise and flow through the woods and not have to think a whole lot. I don't know if you can see it well on the camera, but that's the concrete trail just in front of us here. So we're about to exit out, essentially right where we dropped in, this section. And the trail will be right there, so super easy to access this little section of trail. Little kids, families, people that are new to mountain biking, and you want to be able to get them on some dirt without terrifying them and getting them to swear off mountain biking forever. Because you got to remember, stuff that seems normal to you after, you know, mountain biking for a while does not to people that are new to it. And even if it's technically pretty simple, it can be really intimidating and or dangerous if they then freeze up because they're scared or nervous. So now we're going to go over here and hit the outer log loop.
It's pulled down.
Oh.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no worries. Thanks. Okay, and this is the outer log loop. Now this is a little more challenging. A few little technical things there. Oh. Thanks. Fun little jump here. Nice little berm turn. If I were them, I probably wouldn't be on this loop in those bikes, but technically it's certainly doable. So you need to be really comfortable with what you're doing. And I'm not sure they quite know what they're in for here. Not that this is bad, but thanks. Thanks. This is easily an intermediate loop. There's a few little fun features that have a little entertainment with. I always take the bypass going uphill on that one. Never really saw the point in riding that feature uphill. Although I guess if you were really hammering it through there, you probably could do something fun with it. But not me. You can see there's a little bit of exposure here on the left-hand side. Probably block some of this off a little bit, keep people from getting too close to the edge, because there's a big drop down there. All right, now we got a little climb back up to the dam. We're going to cross the trail that we used coming out of the waterfall crossing. And we're basically just going to crisscross that, go back up to the dam, and back around to that side of the trail. Keeping an eye on time here. We've only got about 45 minutes before sunset, so I'm guessing, at least at the rate that I'm riding right now, probably not going to get in the full lap today. But we certainly can get through everything except maybe either Windy Loop, Windy City, Windy Loop, whatever the hell it's called, the BMX Loop. Might be able to do one of those. Oh. Also curious about the GoPro effect on some of this, because I'm willing to bet nothing looks too steep out here except for maybe Indo Valley. Frankly, something you wouldn't want to walk down. Thanks. One thing you got to watch out for, especially riding around here, because this is such a high traffic area, But yeah, you got to watch out for traffic on the trails and everything. But a lot of neighborhoods around here, a lot of people, kids, whoever, that are always cutting new trail. So if you're your first time out here, definitely want to be keeping an eye on trail forks, watching a video or something ahead of time so you kind of got an idea of the routes and where your turns are. Because, well, it seems super obvious once you've been out here a while. I promise you, it can be really confusing. And you can easily end up off on some random trail.
Right.
All right, thanks.
Because of every rock.
Now we're getting into a little section of trail here that, you know, I'm just slow through at the end of the day. That's the only way to describe it. This just is not my style of riding through here. And although there is a really fun feature at the end of this section, which makes riding all this worth it. And the fact that, I mean, you get better every time you come through here. Learn when you need to drop the seat post, when don't you, and little things like that tree, which I frankly have to kind of duck around, and I just dislike that. Through here, and then got more. Got a couple more of these. Basically crisscross this creek like, I don't know, 6 times or something, 7 times. And then you can see the fun little feature at the end here. So, I believe this is what's called Mark's Arc. It's a fun little section. That's really just a drop down. And I'm sure on video, this climb looks flat and why is he going so slow uphill, up, you know, down level ground or whatever. But I promise you it's uphill. And the roots are just enough to force you to work. You got kind of, I think maybe 2 other kind of larger climbs on this side of the creek, and then we're gonna cross back over the main creek. Not this little creek, which we're about to cross over again here, but cross the main creek here in a minute. A few minutes at least. And then we'll see how much time we got left. There's a little bypass if you aren't comfortable riding that section. Nice, easy little bypass. Just make a left and skip it. I'm feeling like I kind of regret right now my choice of wearing a flannel. I'm working a little too hard for being in the flannel today. Although I like the protection on my arms. I always come home with scratched up arms. And I don't when I'm wearing the flannel. And I thought it might just be cool enough to get away with it, but I think that was a bad call today. It probably would have been cool enough at lunchtime today, but by the time we hit 4 o'clock, it had gotten to 70 and it was just too warm. I was hoping it might cool off a little as the sun started to set, but I think I got a few more hours of t-shirt weather here. So just gonna have to suffer. So here's one of the climbs. I think these climbs have names. I have no idea what they are. This climb just goes for a while. Nothing too steep, but just some of these little roots and rocks and just enough to keep you awake. We're going to do a little downhill section here. A little bit of a steeper drop right here, and then around the corner, then back up into the other climb. And then there's not really any more serious climbing after this. This is the stuff that's making me regret flannel today. And I also forgot my sweat headband, so my glasses are starting to get a little wet. Also, a little curious to see how good the stabilization is we get into some of these slightly green, lower light situations. I'm curious how much that impacts the ability of the GoPro to stabilize, what it's doing as far as selecting ISO and shutter speed and all that, because personally, I would rather have the trade-off of grainy footage that's smooth and nice sharp footage that's bouncing all over the place. Because one of those is useful, one of those is not. So when you get in these shadows, I'm curious to see how well it actually works. little descent here. A bit of a turn. This drop, one where it's nice to have a dropper on your bike because it's just steep enough that it can be a little tricky with a rigid seat post. Ooh. That was a good reason to wear glasses out here. And we're going to come over here, hit this last section before we go over the creek. Really nothing to this. It's a very short little climb. And then a fun little wall ride section over a route. I say wall ride. Probably not technically steep enough to be a wall ride, but in my book it counts. I always like hitting that. Just a fun little section there. Now we're going to cross the creek. Spin there, a little wet coming out of the creek. Y'all okay?
Yeah.
All right. Someone in their hammock there. That is not a bad idea. Thanks. Never actually really thought about bringing my hammock and setting it up here. Not sure about the mosquitoes, but this time of year should be okay. That might be a new project. Keep getting email ads for little backpacking hammocks, so maybe I do need one after all. Doing okay?
Yeah, I just need to put a chain link in.
Oh, okay, you got a tool?
I got them.
Cool, all right. I'm not sure I've ever encountered somebody with a mechanical out here before. Now I got two within about 2 minutes. There's actually, I didn't point it out. Before I hit that long descent, kind of heading over, I don't know the right way to describe it, to the back side of the trails, right before into a valley, there's actually a little bike repair station that's pretty well equipped. It's got a pump and pretty much all the tools you need to fix anything on the trail. So super nice little feature to have out there. If you ever have a problem and you don't have the tools to fix it, you're probably not that far of a walk from either that section or the actual trailhead up at the parking lot. And this is also a high enough traffic area that somebody will probably come along that has whatever they need to fix it. Now we're going into a section here called the Severe Consequences Loop. I'm not sure if the whole section is severe consequences or if it's just this little piece of the loop. And as I understand it, consequences used to be significantly more severe, but it doesn't mean this is a joke, because I believe back at the end of September they pulled somebody off of here in a stretcher. Oh, thanks. I think that little trail off to the right is where the severe consequences actually take place. Oh.
Oh, Rory. Dude. Rory. Wake up.
That was interesting. Not the way I normally hit that section, but it works, I guess, if you're dealing with a aggressive dog that you don't feel like kicking in front of a little girl. I'm a dog lover. I have a German Shepherd myself, but I also don't screw around with dogs that are acting aggressive. Perfectly happy to squirt one with a water bottle or kick it if I need to. Someone's smoking some weed back here. Tell you though, when you run into situations like that with a dog or whatever, kid, whoever, being comfortable in a track stand, being comfortable with a little bit of a kick up onto something, the difference between being able to stay on your bike and just cruise through it and having to get off your bike, in which case, you know, that foot comes down to the ground. Maybe that dog decides that it looks like something he wants to try to bite. Probably not, but you never know. And frankly, also just look cooler if you don't have to step off the bike, which is extremely important. So in the interest of time, I'm actually going to skip this little left right there. Comes out right here, and to be honest, there's really nothing to it. There's one little tree gate that's a little bit, you just got to watch yourself, it's a little tight, but other than that, it's pretty flat. Now we're coming up here, a little bit of a climb to a fun downhill section, and there's some loop outs if you're not comfortable with it. It's the kind of thing I wouldn't ride on a rigid bike. You could definitely do it on a hardtail as long as you're comfortable. It's definitely more of an intermediate feature, but it's a fun one. And once you get past it, it's fine. So certainly seen, you know, I've been out here behind some groups of kids and just walk this section up here and then can ride the rest of it back up to the trailhead. So I think based on the light and the time and where we're on the trail, probably going to skip Windy and BMX Loop today. I'm sure it doesn't look steep on the GoPro, but I promise it is. And once you're through that, like, it's a few little things here, but nothing super technical. So I think what we'll do is ride this section out, and then fun little climb that I like to use to go back up to the parking lot. So you can certainly take the road too, but I enjoy the climb. We'll probably go hit that. And then call it good for a quick Sunday afternoon ride. Had to sneak out. I was gonna go earlier, and then the kids across the street showed up looking for my son to play, and that turned into, 2 hours of hanging outside, making sure nobody did anything that got anybody hurt, and having some fun. But I was also kind of sitting there looking at the clock going, need my wife to wake up from her nap with the baby sometime soon so I can get in a quick ride before the end of the day. I wanted to do a day ride today rather than a night ride, but sometimes a night ride or no ride at all is what you end up with. So this is the climb back up to the parking lot that dumps you out by the swimming pool up here at Walnut Creek. First little section is kind of steep, and then it levels out a bit after this first switchback. Okay, good ride. Had fun. I always like coming out here. Not the most technical trail out here, but you can get a good workout, have fun. Certainly plenty of technical sections. It's a great trail to come out here and develop and build your skills. There's good progression out here to some of the bigger features. Have a good one.